She is a flawless, older, beautiful coworker. A woman I had always admired from afar, but now I was stirred to the core by a side of her I had never seen before. My name is Thomas Baker. I'm a 38-year-old bachelor, working as a corporate employee. I have been working at the electronics manufacturer I joined right out of college, and this year marks my 16th year. After 2 years at the company, I was offered a transfer to a regional branch, and for the past 15 years, I had been handling sales there. At the time, it was a small branch in terms of sales, but I managed to secure contracts with major clients, which greatly contributed to boosting the branch's sales performance. As a result, I was promoted to manager and returned to the head office. When I returned to the head office after receiving my transfer notice, I was greeted with a congratulatory mood by the general manager, who had become my immediate supervisor. "Thomas, congratulations on your promotion. It's quite an exceptional success story to become a manager at such a young age at the same time as you return to the head office. We look forward to your future contributions." Thank you. If I could be blessed with such words of praise, it made all the hard work worthwhile. Great. From now on, I will work even harder than ever. That's what I told myself. But 3 months later, I was unexpectedly consulted by the director. "We have decided to do a joint project between the sales department and the advertising department, and they want me to represent the sales department and work with the person in charge of the advertising department on the project. We're going to have a promotional event soon, and we'd like the sales department to participate as well, to present our products to the customers, along with selling them. By the way, we've already spoken to Jennifer, the manager of the advertising department." When the director said that, Jennifer, who was behind the director, stepped forward and said to me, "I look forward to working with you," bowing her head. Jennifer was the fastest rising section chief among the women at the headquarters, and was famous not only for her excellent work performance, but also for being one of the most beautiful women in the company. I too formally bowed my head to the director and Jennifer. "Of course, I'm happy to accept. I'm still inexperienced, but I'll do my best. I appreciate your understanding." Even as I bowed my head, my gaze was fixed on Jennifer. Oh, she hasn't changed a bit in 15 years. There was a reason why I was so conscious of her. Going back 16 years. I had just joined the company and was like a baby bird, not knowing what was right and what was left. The person appointed as my mentor was Jennifer, 7 years my senior. Jennifer, her family name Lewis due to her marriage at that time, was a full-fledged career woman and had always been called by her maiden name, Hill, in the company. Back then, she didn't hold any executive position, and because of her friendly nature, I used to call her by her first name. "Jennifer, how should I fill out this form?" No matter how trivial the matter, Jennifer, my senior, would explain it to me gently and carefully. "Here, I've compiled these notes. You can use them if you like. You catch on quick, so I think you'll remember it all in no time." With a smile, she handed me handwritten notes. With each of her considerate gestures, my heart would swell with warmth. Jennifer was 7 years older, but her skin and hair were youthful, making her look much younger than her actual age. With her dark brown glossy hair swaying, and her gentle eyes sparkling with an angelic smile, she appeared radiant. Gradually, I began to see Jennifer not just as my boss but as a woman, and my admiration for her grew stronger. But as mentioned before, she was married at that time. No matter how much I liked her, there was no chance of us being together. Either way, there's no way a newbie like me can match up to such a beautiful and capable woman. I should keep these feelings to myself. That's what I tried to tell myself. But about 10 months after joining the company, a female co-worker named Sarah confessed her feelings to me. Caught off guard by her sudden confession, I apologized to Sarah, saying I couldn't reciprocate her feelings. She was indeed an attractive woman, but the one I truly liked was none other than Jennifer. As soon as she was rejected by me, Sarah had a look of disapproval on her face. "Can you tell me why you're rejecting me? I appreciate your feelings, but the thing is, I have someone I like. Don't tell me it's Jennifer, your mentor. You seem pretty close to her." Caught on the spot, I hastily denied it, but Sarah smirked and said, "So you like older women," before walking away. I watched her walk away with a sense of unease, and my worst fear came true. A few days later, the rumor that I had a crush on Jennifer spread like wildfire within the company. I vividly remember how Jennifer suddenly became distant after those rumors presumably reached her ears. Our friendly banter from before had been replaced with strictly business-like conversations, and it was quite evident from her behavior that she was avoiding eye contact with me as much as possible. It's not like I had any intentions of getting involved with Jennifer, a married woman. But the sudden rift that this rumor created between us made her seem so distant, and I couldn't help but feel sad about it. Around the same time, an opportunity arose where the upper management was looking for a staff member willing to be assigned to a regional office. Since I joined the company with the intent to gain sales experience, this was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. Besides, now that my relationship with Jennifer is on the rocks, I thought I should accept the transfer even more so that I can get away from the head office. And so, after working in the regional office for 15 years, I returned to the headquarters, only to end up working with Jennifer again, who was now a division head. Fortunately, the 15 years had effectively erased the rumor of me having a crush on her. The turnover of employees had been quite significant, and I assumed that any such rumors would naturally fade away after a decade and a half. To my surprise, I learned that Jennifer had divorced her husband 8 years ago. But of course, it wasn't my place to ask her the reason for her divorce. Even now, I still felt nervous facing her after all these years, and I was trying my best to act composed. "For the promotional event, do you have any ideas, Jennifer?" I asked during our first project representatives meeting. Jennifer showed me a few documents. "We have a brochure idea ready, and we plan to run a commercial as well, but we're pondering on something special for the event. Any thoughts?" The brochure concepts Jennifer showed me were all clear and attractively designed. Anyone would be compelled to pick them up. I admired Jennifer's work ethic and responded, "Well, we have plenty of home appliances, so I think we'll have a lot of families attending. How about organizing a superhero show to entertain the kids?" I then introduced some event companies I knew from my time working in our regional office to Jennifer. After explaining everything, Jennifer smiled in delight. "That sounds wonderful. It would indeed attract families to participate in the event. And Thomas, I'm impressed by your vast connections." I didn't expect such praise, which left me blushing. No matter how many years go by, Jennifer remains an idol to me. "Thank you so much. In the region where the population is smaller, various approaches are necessary for sales. It's an honor that you appreciated it, Jennifer." Though we initially had an awkward atmosphere, before I knew it, we were having a friendly and relaxed discussion. Later, when we presented our plan at a project meeting, the staff showed positive reactions. "If we keep this up, the project will surely go well." Jennifer and I, feeling a sense of accomplishment, held many more detailed discussions together. This was my first time being appointed as a project representative, so honestly, I was quite anxious. But thanks to Jennifer's excellent work, the project progressed smoothly, making me feel a sense of fulfillment I had never experienced before. I owe it all to Jennifer. But rather, she praised me. "Thomas, you've really changed since the old days. Thanks to you, our staff morale is boosted." "Not at all. I'm still new to being a manager." No, not only me, but other executives also have been saying that. It's no surprise that you overcame various trials at the regional office. The executives saw your achievements there and appointed you as manager. Please have confidence. Jennifer, I felt rewarded for my hard work when I heard her words. Indeed, as Jennifer said, my days in the regional office were full of hardships. But being recognized like this, it's more than I could ask for. Maybe I've finally become someone who can stand on equal footing with her, from when I was a fresh graduate who relied on her. I thanked her, feeling again that I loved her. But I can't repeat what happened 15 years ago. I don't want to bother her and ruin our current good relationship. If I love her, I should hide my feelings and remain a good business partner. Trying to maintain my rationality, I reassured myself of that, but then I was hit with an unexpected turn of events. A week before the internal project progress report, Jennifer fell ill with a cold and had to take a day off from work. Everyone was worried about her, including me, because she seldom takes a day off, but she messaged saying, "I'll be back to work the day after tomorrow. Sorry for the inconvenience." She also requested to review the materials for the project meeting if possible. Her apartment was conveniently located, and all the staff knew where it was since we had passed by it during our get-togethers. As I lived closest, I was tasked with handing over the documents at her doorstep after work. But given that Jennifer wasn't feeling well, I planned to just hand over the documents and some get-well gifts at her doorstep and then leave immediately. As I headed to her apartment with the materials, I heard a weak voice over the intercom saying, "Come on in, please." Worried, I opened the door to find Jennifer, usually so strong, sitting in the hallway, her face flushed and breathing raggedly. Confronted with this unprecedented sight of my long-admired figure, I ran over to her in a rush. "Jennifer, are you okay? I'm sorry. It seems the fever came back all of a sudden." Seeing that Jennifer seemed to be in worse shape than I'd thought, I offered her my shoulder and led her to the bedroom. The moment she laid down on the bed, Jennifer suddenly started to cry, her tears falling heavily. "What's the matter?" I asked, and she managed to get words out between her sobs. "I'm sorry, I'm just so ashamed. I'm 7 years older than you, Thomas, and I'm the lead on the project. But I got sick right before an important presentation and caused everyone so much trouble. I feel like I'm failing as a leader." Being a serious and perfectionist person, Jennifer must be feeling weak due to her cold, blaming herself more than necessary. Seeing her in this state, my chest tightened, and before I knew it, I was holding her shoulder with both hands. "It's not a problem at all, and Jennifer, please don't deny yourself like that. For me, you've been my idol for the past 15 years. The moment Jennifer heard my confession, she opened her eyes wide in surprise. The feelings I've been trying to suppress all this time spilled out at once. There was no stopping me now. "I've liked you ever since we first met, Jennifer. Of course, I'm fully aware that 15 years ago I caused you a lot of trouble because of that. I'm really sorry for what happened then, but I've learned so much just from working with you, and it's made me incredibly happy. So Jennifer, please feel free to rely on me more. I might still have a long way to go, but I believe I've become more dependable than I used to be. I'm confident that I won't make any stupid mistakes. All of our colleagues admire your personality and abilities too." After pouring out my heart, I suddenly felt embarrassed. Letting go of Jennifer's shoulder, I pointed to a plastic bag on the table. "I'm sorry for having this conversation while you're not feeling well. I bought you some refreshments, so please enjoy them if you like. Please take care of yourself." Wait, just as I was about to leave, Jennifer suddenly grabbed my arm. I hadn't expected her to stop me, and I turned back to her in surprise, unable to hide my confusion. Then, with teary eyes, she stared at me and slowly opened her mouth. "I can't forget because I like you too, Thomas." Now it was my turn to be surprised. Jennifer liked me. The shock was so great that I froze on the spot. Despite this, Jennifer revealed her feelings to me. I discovered my husband's affair and divorced him 8 years ago, but in reality, I had suspected his betrayal much earlier. But without solid evidence, I just couldn't bring myself to finalize the divorce. When I met you, Thomas, I was stuck in such a deadlock," said Jennifer. Upon hearing her reason for divorce, I felt a profound sympathy for her. At the same time, I felt an unbearable anger rising within me towards her ex-husband who had betrayed her. But Jennifer, the department head herself, continued her story calmly. "Oh, how much I was saved by your straightforwardness when you treated me earnestly at that time. Before I knew it, I had developed more than professional feelings for you, Thomas. But when rumors circulated in the office that I was in love with you, Jennifer, seeing your troubled face, I thought for sure that you have started disliking me." Well, actually, I was happy about the rumor, but even if we were just a married couple in name, I kept telling myself that I, as a married woman, shouldn't deprive you, a young man, of your future. Besides, you're 7 years younger than me, so even if you said you liked me, I convinced myself that it was just admiration for your boss, confused with affection. When I met you again, seeing your greatly matured figure after an extraordinary promotion, I felt that I, who was past my prime, was far from being your match. That's not true at all. Hearing Jennifer's words, I again grabbed her shoulder. Age doesn't matter, and being incompatible is preposterous. I have always been unable to forget about her. Even after 15 years of separation, my feelings for you never faded. I want to be with you forever. Oh, Thomas, thank you, I'm really happy. I too was savoring my happiness at the miracle of having shared my feelings with Jennifer. I wanted to hug her tight right now. But for the time being, she needs to rest well. I hate to leave, but I must say goodbye now. Staying here could worsen your cold. Whether she understood my intention or not, Jennifer showed an embarrassed expression. That sounds good. Let's continue this after my cold is cured and the project is completed. As soon as I left her apartment, I couldn't help but squat on the spot. Jennifer is worried because she's 7 years older, but her blushing earlier was as lovely as a young girl. At the same time as being thrilled by her cuteness, I was also basking in the afterglow of the happiness of becoming mutual lovers with such a wonderful woman. 2 days later, Jennifer had recovered, and the presentation went smoothly. As a result, our project achieved a great success. After that, Jennifer and I officially started dating and began calling each other by a term of endearment outside of work. Thanks to the high evaluation our project team received from the upper management, Jennifer and I have been working together a few more times. You could say that we are building a good relationship, both privately and professionally. There is no one else but her with whom I want to spend the rest of my life. With that conviction, a year into our relationship, I formally proposed to Jennifer. But here, again, she expressed her anxiety about our age difference. "I'm so happy, but are you really okay with me being older?" "It's fine," I reassured her as I held her close, whispering gently in her ear. Even though we were apart for 15 years, we both thought about each other, and our feelings are now even stronger. It's clear that age has nothing to do with it. "Thomas," Jennifer's eyes teared up at my words. "Yes, I also want to spend the rest of my life with you. From now on, I'm determined to be by her side, doing my utmost to protect Jennifer's smile." My name is Patrick Sullivan, turning 29 this year. I'm a single white-collar worker. I have a childhood dream. That is to marry a lovely lady and establish a happy family before I turn 30. When little girls say that their future dream is to become a wife, everyone raises voices saying, "How cute." But I wonder why people get taken aback when a man like me puts my desire for marriage out in the open. My parents are as close as they could embarrass me. When I go home, they treat me almost as if I'm intruding. Watching such parents growing up, I came to sincerely wish to find my lifelong partner and marry soon. I was supposed to get married much earlier, but everything has ended in failure. I'm amazed by how strong your desire to get married is, Patrick, says my senior at work, Mike Anderson, as he smokes a cigarette in the smoking area. Mike and I work at a major printing company. Mike's in sales, and I'm in the design department. We're in different departments, but we're close enough to call each other buddies. I respond to his sales with my designs. I think we probably have similar sensibilities. We communicate well with each other, making work easier. Also, the tasks that Mike brings in are often challenging, providing me with good stimulation. Exchanging information at the company's smoking area has become a daily routine for us, who hang out both in private and at work. There's nothing wrong with it. Just before my goal of turning 30, I'm also desperate to make my dream come true. A party I attended the other day also ended in failure. The reason was Mike. He's so handsome that he gathered all the attention from the ladies at the party. I even asked him not to come to the party once. Well, it can't be helped. I'll introduce you to a special girl, but I'm going to tell her in advance that this is for marriage. Is that okay? Mike said while exhaling smoke from his cigarette. I've known him for a long time, but Mike has never introduced a girl to me before. It was a surprising turn of events. He must have felt sorry for me. If you're introducing me a girl, Mike, I'm sure she will be a beauty without a doubt. I'm looking forward to it, I responded. At my words, Mike raised one of his eyebrows in a slightly boastful way. Hey, you two, how long are you taking for a smoke break? You're still on the clock. Stop slacking off. My direct supervisor, Johnson, yelled from across the smoking area. He's the head of the design department, but he doesn't carry much authority. He's been experiencing a series of defeats in competitions recently, and he's not very well respected within the company. Mike and I are a team with one of the highest sales records in the company. There are many who are envious of us. Johnson is one of the biggest of them. Well, no matter what the reason, it's not a good idea to be targeted by the boss. I quickly stubbed out my cigarette in the ashtray and put it out. Mike, I'm counting on you for the introduction. We can go into details later. I said that, then left the smoking area. Mike gave a casual sure, raising one hand. He quickly started fiddling with his cell phone, which made me think he might be contacting the person he's introducing me to. Thinking about that makes my heart swell with anticipation. I can't help but hope that this time, the fated encounter is waiting for me. My chest was filled with hope. And then, the very next moment, I hit rock bottom. On the conference table, there were shop cards and postcards for the new line of a major clothing brand I had designed. Standing in front of me were the division chief and Johnson. Can you explain what happened here? It was a mistake in color correction. Apparently, there were changes since the time I had a meeting. No report had come up to me, the main designer. In fact, there was no evidence that a report had come up to my team at all. I didn't receive any reports about changes in color correction. I clearly stated, being blamed for something I have no memory of didn't sit well with me. It doesn't matter anymore. How are we going to deal with all these that have been printed? We don't have time to make new ones. Who's going to apologize? None of that matters now, said Johnson. I thought, it does matter. But I also realized that we didn't have time to argue if we wanted to minimize the impact on the client. Regardless, our only option is to reprint. I insisted, but the printing presses. Johnson began. He was trying to say that the press wasn't available for reprinting. It was his job to sort that out. Just then, the conference room door was flung open. I got the printer. Hurry up with the design. Mike's head popped in through the door. He had apparently sprung into action as soon as he heard about the incident. What a reliable senior he is. Prompted by Mike's voice, I quickly grabbed a new color correction data and sample, then hurried to my team's desk. You're going to take responsibility, Johnson shouted after me as I darted away, repeating it like a broken record. The fact that we managed to get the client to delay the delivery date by 2 days was all thanks to Mike's efforts. But Johnson seemed to be reporting all the credit to himself. It was typical, but still bothersome. The remaining issue was the misprinted deliveries. Who was going to take the fall for this error? It seemed to be me to take responsibility. That day, as I was frantically working on a new design, it seems Johnson reported to the upper management, including the director, that the error was due to my oversight as the team leader. Johnson insists that my signature was on the color correction document. By the way, that document is currently missing. Now that this whole commotion is over, I am being asked to voluntarily resign at a meeting in the CEO's office. Voluntary resignation. I couldn't help but repeat it in surprise. The reasons given were the extensive damages caused to the company and my inability to follow the basics: reporting, communication, and consultation. Even such trivial things were being nitpicked. Probably, as a result of Johnson reporting anything and everything to the higher-ups, it was decided that I was the culprit. By offering my head to the client, they aimed to sweep this mistake under the rug. I could sense that kind of intention from above. At this point, I have absolutely no options. You can take some time to consider this. Just keep in mind we're expecting a positive response, they said. Stunned by what was essentially a layoff notice, I could hardly react. Just when I was about to be introduced to a potential bride by Mike tomorrow, I received this resignation notice and am on the verge of becoming jobless. In this situation, it's irresponsible to say let's date with marriage in mind. I will apologize to Mike and cancel the introduction for tomorrow. That was what I was thinking. But Mike just brushed it off, saying it didn't matter. Don't look so glum. I'm going to take you to a great place to lift your spirits, he said. There's no way Mike doesn't know about my layoff notice. Before I could refuse, Mike was grinning like a mischievous boy, arm over my shoulder. He practically dragged me to a certain location. It was a world I'd never stepped foot into. A night pool at a certain hotel. It's a popular place and requires reservations. Of course, no one under 18 is allowed. The lighting and music create a different atmosphere than during the day. Today, there's a DJ, so it's more upbeat rather than moody. There's alcohol, so it seems like the perfect place to forget my troubles. I've never been to a place like this before. I was overwhelmed by the sight unfolding before my eyes. Girls in revealing swimsuits were happily walking past. Just watching them was a feast for the eyes. I know you've got a lot on your plate, but just try to enjoy tonight. You can worry about everything else tomorrow. I figured that was his way of offering comfort. I'll think about tomorrow when it comes. I decided to enjoy the time being. Mike quickly disappeared somewhere, having been called over by a girl. The popular guys always have it good, wherever they are. I couldn't muster up the courage to approach any of the girls, let alone be approached by any of them. It was such a waste to just space out by the poolside. I decided to make the most out of the pool itself. I resolved to just swim. I love swimming, and being underwater was soothing. The strange sensation of swimming while listening to music and the sounds of excitement was oddly calming. At that moment, something colorful floated slowly towards me, stopping right before my nose. Picking it up with my fingers, I examined the object that had barely brushed my nose. It was a bikini top, and the moment I realized it, I felt as if my face was on fire. If it was here, that meant its owner was. I started looking around frantically, thinking she must be embarrassed. Then, a woman, only her head visible above the water, came up to me, her face flushed with embarrassment. That's mine. She hesitated, pointing at the bikini top I held in my hand. Oh, sorry. It just floated over. I hurriedly handed her the bikini top. Will you take responsibility for what you've seen? She asked shyly, requesting I shield her back from view while she put her bikini top back on. Without a second thought, I hid her from view. My friend pushed me so hard on the water slide, I went flying. I was so scared. After putting her bikini top back on, she laughed at the memory. Her radiant smile was incredibly charming. Mary, did you find it? A voice, probably her friend's, called out to her from a distance. The woman called Mary answered, I found it, in a voice that carried over the music. Thanks, you saved me. You're quite the gentleman. She poked me in the forehead with a slender finger. Startled, I froze in place, and she chuckled softly. "See you," she said, leaving me frozen in place as she swam off towards her friends. I blankly watched her slender, white back as she swam away. "Oh, you've already met. That's her." "Oh, Mike, what do you mean?" Mike, who was squatting by the poolside with a cocktail in one hand, was even cool from a guy's perspective. "I was going to introduce you to her. Her name is Mary Newson." He told me that she was his childhood friend. They were from the same hometown, and she was like a little sister to him. "She's also very interested in getting married, just like you. You're the same age, so I thought you'd get along. It's better to have someone with similar values, right?" Hearing that she was the one I was supposed to meet tomorrow, feelings of happiness and disappointment welled up inside me at the same time. I am a man about to be unemployed. I was certainly not in a situation suitable for marriage. She too has a strong desire to get married. There's no way she would consider me a guy who's not suited for marriage. I think the best option would have been to turn down Mike right here and now. But I wanted to see her just one more time. She was that captivating. Am I good enough for her? I mean, she's a good friend from your childhood, right? My question was drowned out by the loud music. It didn't seem to reach his ears. The next day, I headed to the designated Chinese restaurant. I was set to have lunch in a private room. It's a famous place for dim sum lunch, and you can't get in without a reservation. I'm grateful for Mike's connections. It seems I arrived first and was led to an empty private room. I was a bit nervous. Nothing has been officially decided about my situation yet. The company is insistent on it being a voluntary resignation. Either way, it's disappointing, but considering Mary's future, I should honestly convey this and decline. That's what I had decided in my heart. Your companion has arrived. I was told this quietly, and I straightened my back. My nervousness peaked. The woman who entered, making the sound of heels, was someone I had never seen before. She gave a small nod to the waiter and sat down on the chair. Watching her flowing movement, I felt she was used to being served. I was introduced by Mike. "My name is Mary Newson." She said this and smiled at me. She seemed like a woman with some kind of shadow, and her age was unclear. She seemed young, but also looked older than me. After finishing the drink order and the waiter left the private room, I raised my voice. "Excuse me, you aren't really Mary Newson, are you?" Then the woman who had been smiling gracefully until a moment ago clicked her tongue. "Well, it's obvious. We met last night. Even though it was dark, Mary and I are as different as night and day," she said in a defiant manner, and introduced herself as Jennifer Smith. She claimed to be an old friend from the same hometown as Mike and Mary. It seems that it was her who had called out to Mary last night. Today, she said she had come as a stand-in at Mary's request. She didn't really want to be introduced. "Okay, whether you're Mary or not, there's something I have to say." I talked about my imminent voluntary resignation and bowed my head, asking her to pretend this introduction never happened. Jennifer pulled out a portable vaporizer from her bag and slowly exhaled the smoke. "But that's not what I'm here to talk about." Ignoring my desperate explanations, Jennifer asked for my help. She wanted to talk about two people, Mike and Mary. These two had always been close, but not too close. More than friends but not quite lovers, as they say. The reason their relationship wasn't moving forward was because of Mike. When we all went to the summer fair together, Mike's mother disappeared. Mike has been waiting for her ever since. Apparently, this incident traumatized him, and he's had a hard time trusting women since then. Sure enough, Mike, despite being quite popular, never seemed to stick with one woman. He welcomed all who came and never chased after those who left. That was the nature of Mike's relationships with women. "I want you to help them get together," said Jennifer, looking straight into my eyes. Seeing my hesitation, she slid a business card across the table. The name of the company that had caused a problem the other day was on the card. Her title was Group Owner. I looked at the card and were in shock. "If you help me, we can pretend your mistake never happened." I extended my right hand at this enticing offer. "Understood. Leave it to me." We shook hands, confirming our alliance. I got a full briefing of Jennifer's plan and decided to put it into action right away. Jennifer contacted Mary first. She told Mary, with a hint of panic, everything's been exposed. She then convincingly portrayed me as furious and uncontrollable. Sorry, I'll be right there, I heard from the other end. I called up Mike and gave him a piece of my mind. With a level of assertiveness you wouldn't usually expect from me, I told him how disrespectful it was to use a stand-in. Mike agreed to come right away and the call ended. They seem complicated, but they are actually simple and honest. Jennifer remarked. Before the pair arrived, we hurriedly finished up our dim sum. We didn't want to waste our food. We both laughed as we burned our tongues on the hot dumplings. There was something oddly comfortable about the whole situation. Your guests have arrived, a waiter announced as the peach buns and mango pudding were being served. Jennifer clicked her tongue in front of the enticing desserts. She must have been really looking forward to them. Wiping her mouth with a napkin, Jennifer gave a mischievous grin and said, "All right, let's start." "Jennifer, are you okay?" Mike burst into the private room. Looking at his face, Jennifer brought on the waterworks in less than 5 seconds. I was left dumbstruck by her Oscar-worthy performance. Mary doesn't want to be set up, but it's out now. He said it in such an incredibly angry manner. Crying, Jennifer implored Mike. Behind Mike, Mary stood frozen, her hand over her mouth in surprise. Enough with the mockery, using a stand-in. If you didn't want the introduction, why do you accept it in the first place? You just wanted to laugh at my strong desire to marry, didn't you? With all the acting skills I could muster, I shouted at Mary, who was standing frozen behind Mike. Mary's shoulders jerked in fright. Mike immediately moved to shield Mary with his back. Jennifer, looking down, gave a faint smile. It was a strangely sad smile. "Calm down, man. Don't shout at a woman," Mike retorted. You're no better, Mike. Why would you introduce such a woman using a stand-in because she didn't want to come? Is that the type of woman you thought would suit me? A mean-spirited woman. I didn't hold back on shouting at Mike either. I've never been this confrontational with anyone in my life. Mike seemed taken aback by my onslaught, unable to find his words. Perhaps because I'm usually so polite, he must have thought I was truly enraged today. "Mary, why don't you want the introduction? You want to get married, right? So why not me? Why do you dislike the introduction so much? It's so mean to use a stand-in." I tried to appeal to Mary, who was looking at me in fear from behind Mike. Her expression began to distort as if she was about to start crying. In the next moment, she bowed so deeply her forehead almost touched her knees. "I'm sorry. I thought that if I agreed to the introduction, Mike would stop it. I only pretended to be desperate for marriage in front of him. I didn't mean to hurt you." Tears spilled from Mary's eyes. "If you're in love with someone, please don't agree to any introductions. It's a nuisance." The moment I took a step towards Mary, Mike grabbed my collar. "Don't keep saying terrible things to Mary. I'm the one who brought up the introduction, not her. She did nothing wrong." I had to stand on tiptoes as tall Mike grabbed my collar. When I glanced at Jennifer, begging for help, she clenched her fist and silently mouthed, "Good luck." I wish she wouldn't make impossible demands. Just when I thought I might pass out from the strain, it was Mary who came to my rescue. "Mike, stop it. It's my fault. I should have refused the introduction when it came up. I thought you were testing me, so I went along with the introduction, intending to cause you trouble." Upon hearing Mary's confession, Mike let go of my collar. I fell back on my butt. "This is a big inconvenience to me, being used as a pawn. Mike, it's about time you gave in." The one who spoke to the bewildered Mike was Jennifer. It's a real nuisance to everyone that those two, obviously in love with each other, keep missing each other. Moreover, they're both so attractive. The fallout is extensive. Spurred by Jennifer's words, Mike reached out and held Mary's hand. Then, in a soft voice, he said, "Is it really okay if it's me?" It was a more juvenile voice than I'd ever heard from the Mike I knew. Mary, with a tearful smile, gently embraced Mike, saying, "Of course it is." It felt like Mike's clock had started ticking again from that summer festival night. "Now, please, go home, you two. We're going to eat some peach dumplings and mango pudding." Jennifer, who had burst into tears just 5 seconds ago, was already sitting back comfortably in her chair, smoking a hookah and crossing her legs. Seeing her like this, Mike quickly realized that this was all an act. Mary seemed to be savoring the happiness of confirming her mutual feelings with Mike, completely oblivious to the farce. "Patrick, sorry for all the trouble." "Thank you," Mike said over his shoulder, hugging Mary as they were about to leave the room. I waved a large hand, sending a silent best of luck as I saw them off. Once they were out of sight, I suddenly felt all the exhaustion flooding over me. "Jennifer, you had it pretty easy," I said with a side glance at Jennifer, who was enjoying her peach dumplings. "Don't be ridiculous. I lost something valuable. I'm the real victim here," Jennifer said with a straight face. Even I, oblivious as I am, could tell that she must have had feelings for Mike. "So, if you feel like consoling me, give me that mango pudding." "No way. I'm exhausted and I need something sweet too." So there we were, two heartbroken individuals, fighting over dessert. Timing is everything in marriage. "Just wait, and you'll find someone," Jennifer said as she punched my shoulder on the way out. I believe she was trying to cheer me up. "So, is it okay if I ask you out next time? I know a place that has amazing all-you-can-eat cake." At my words, Jennifer turned back with a surprised look and said, "I'll think about it and get back to you," laughing. Workplace trouble resolved. New potential love interest identified. I was sure that Jennifer would get back to me with a yes. I was absolutely certain of it. I'm Stephen Frazier. I'm a 33-year-old single man who works for a medical equipment manufacturer. I've recently been relocated back to the headquarters after 10 years from a regional office. My boss and manager, Johnson, was thrilled about my return. "Stephen, congratulations on your return to HQ. Drinks are on me today. Enjoy as much as you want." With a beer glass in his hand, Johnson patted my shoulder as he said this. Today, he invited me out for drinks to celebrate my return to the headquarters. "Thank you, but the reason I was able to hang in there and do well in the regional office is all thanks to you." This wasn't just a polite phrase, it was the truth. About a year after I started working at this company, I was suddenly assigned to work at a regional office by the manager at that time. Johnson was a section chief. It seems that I was disliked by the manager for being a quiet and boring guy. That's why I ended up being sent to the regional office, which was just facing a staff shortage. I was filled with anxiety that I might not be able to return to the headquarters. Tommy, who was driven by such fear, that then Johnson gave me some encouraging words. I was once sent from HQ to a regional office too. At first, I felt down, thinking I was kicked out because they didn't need me here. But, you see, I was able to get to my current position as a result of the achievements I made there. I want you to believe that this personnel change isn't a demotion, but a personnel decision to turn around the regional office. I need your help, Stephen. So please, don't lose heart and work hard at the regional office. His words were such a huge boost. I was dispirited when the personnel changes were announced, but thanks to Johnson, I was able to face forward and keep going. Even after my transfer to the regional office, I sought advice from Johnson and motivated myself. As a result, the improved performance of the branch office was recognized, and now, I have proudly returned to the headquarters. The former department head had transferred to another department as well, so let's start new and work hard at the headquarters. During a joyful reunion and pleasant chatter, Johnson suddenly made an unexpected proposition. "Stephen, if you're okay with it, would you like to meet my daughter?" "What, your daughter?" The moment I heard the word "meet my daughter," I was stunned. Truth be told, I had never been in a relationship before. I appreciate your sentiment, but as you know, I'm not exactly the social type. I'm a bit embarrassed to say that I don't have any experience dating women. If I met your daughter, I'm afraid she might find me unsuitable. However, Johnson gently reassured me. That's not true. You're much better at communicating now than you were 10 years ago. Your hard work at the regional office in Nebraska has really paid off. I value that about you, and that's why I want to introduce you to my daughter. I think you two would be a great match personality-wise. When I say meet, I just mean have a meal and get to know each other. There's no pressure. Who would have thought that Johnson saw me in that light? His words hit me hard, and I ended up accepting the proposal to meet his daughter. He showed me a picture of his daughter on his phone, and she was stunningly beautiful. However, after finishing the party and returning home, I was already beginning to regret it. I'm not cut out for romance. Though I hadn't mentioned it to him, I had a traumatic past with love. Rewind 16 years. When I was 17, my mother ran off somewhere with the man she was having an affair with. The shock of my mother's disappearance was tough, but worse things were to come. My father, enraged and feeling betrayed by my mother, started taking his anger out on me. Your mother left us because she didn't care for you. You're going to live a lonely life, unloved by anyone. While drowning his sorrows in alcohol, my father repeated these harsh words. Seeing me, who resembled my mother, probably infuriated him. I had no outstanding talents, and perhaps I lacked the charm to keep my mother by my father's side. Deeply hurt by my father's words, I became increasingly introverted. From then on, my father drank more and more, leaving all the household chores to me and raising his hand at the slightest provocation. To avoid getting yelled at, I found myself becoming a perfectionist at home, and before I knew it, I was frequently late for school. Constant tardiness, along with my troubled home life, led to a negative aura surrounding me, and before I knew it, I found myself isolated from my peers. Feeling uncomfortable in my own classroom, I started spending more and more time in the nurse's office. The school nurse, Linda, was very kind and listened attentively to my problems. I couldn't share the full details considering my father's position, but having someone like her, who made time to listen to me, was a lifesaver. You can tell me anything that's troubling you. For your own sake, try your best to get your credits. Once you can stand on your own 2 feet, you'll be able to leave your father sooner. Indeed, she was right. At this rate, I was going to be unable to graduate. Thus, I made a firm commitment to attend all my classes and spent my remaining time seeking refuge in the school nurse's office. Gradually getting the hang of juggling all my responsibilities, I stopped being late and managed to avoid flunking. In the midst of this lifestyle, I found another reason to frequent the nurse's office. There was a female student other than myself who often visited the nurse's office, and I found myself eagerly looking forward to our secret conversations. Her name was Emily Thompson, 1 year younger than me. Good morning, Stephen. Every morning, when I went to the nurse's office, Emily would greet me with a radiant smile. I was also happy to see her, and I returned her greeting with a cheerful good morning. Emily often said, "I'm practically homeschooled in the nurse's office." She rarely ever stepped foot into a classroom, spending nearly her entire day in the nurse's office. The reason was Emily's appearance. She always wore a rumpled school uniform, her face hidden behind long bangs, and the rest of her long hair was simply tied back. She was a plain girl. Because of this, Emily was often scorned as dirty by those around her, and everyone kept their distance. But it wasn't because she was disheveled by choice but her home environment. Her parents favored her older sister and were constantly oppressive towards Emily. As a result, she received hardly any new clothes or daily necessities and couldn't afford to go to a hair salon, resulting in her unkempt appearance. However, I thought she was a wonderful girl. Yesterday, I borrowed a book from the library that was so interesting. It's really wonderful to have such interesting books available. Seeing Emily speak with a smile gave me strength. Even in a situation that would normally seem hopeless, she was always proactive in finding something enjoyable. While everyone criticized Emily's appearance, I noticed that her eyes peeking out from under her long bangs were beautiful. They were clear, light brown, beautiful eyes. With my heart pounding at the sparkle in her eyes, I relied on my conversations with Emily to get through the tough school life. Looking back, it was probably my first love. But all of that was in vain when one day Emily suddenly disappeared. Without saying anything, she suddenly transferred to another school. Even when I asked the teachers, they couldn't tell me anything because of privacy reasons. I thought of her as a fellow student visiting the nurse's office, but I didn't expect such a sudden farewell. It's like when my mom suddenly disappeared. Everyone leaves me behind and goes somewhere else. After that, I somehow managed to graduate high school and moved on to a distant university on a scholarship. It was finally a chance to get away from my father. But no matter how much time passed, I never fell in love with anyone after that. I couldn't forget Emily, and I was afraid of getting hurt, so I couldn't commit to a romantic relationship. So, I felt sorry for my boss, but I doubted that the dinner date would go well. As the day of the dinner date arrived, a woman more beautiful than the one I had seen on the phone appeared in the private room of the restaurant where we were meeting. I was taken aback. "Nice to meet you, I'm Emily." Johnson's daughter introduced herself and bowed politely. "Me, nice to meet you. I'm looking forward to today." Emily was a woman with beautiful fair skin, who wore light-colored dresses with grace. Her smooth chestnut hair swayed, and with her charming aura, I felt my heart race. Oddly enough, I felt a strange connection to the name Emily. Apparently, I seemed to have quite a destiny with that name. The dinner date had me nervous, but we both loved reading, so conversation flowed more freely than I had anticipated. "You also enjoy reading, Stephen." "On my days off, I usually go to the library." "Interesting. Do you have any recent book recommendations?" When I asked her that, Emily explained her recommended book in an easy-to-understand way. Seeing her talk so animatedly with a smile, I found her very attractive. I never thought I would have such a fun time with a woman like this. However, at one point, her demeanor changed suddenly, and Emily fell silent with a mysterious look on her face. "Did I say something wrong?" Nervously, I asked her, "Is something wrong?" She stared at me and said, "Oh, come on, you have to realize it." She rolled up the sleeve of her dress, revealing a bracelet made of black natural stones. The moment I saw the bracelet, I involuntarily let out a sound, as a memory from 16 years ago flashed back. That day, as always, I headed to the nurse's office during lunch break. Linda, the school nurse, must have been in the restroom or somewhere, and it seemed that nobody was in the nurse's office. But then a breeze flowed in from the window. The curtain attached to the nurse's office bed swayed, and I witnessed an incredible scene. What? Through the gap in the curtain stirred by the wind, I could see Emily on the bed, holding a large quantity of something that looked like black tablets. On the table next to the bed, she was staring intently at the tablets. She can't be planning to take those. No matter what kind of pills they are, it's clear that consuming them all at once would be detrimental to one's health. Emily, unable to bear it any longer, I forcefully pushed aside the curtain and stormed over to the bed. "Stephen, what on earth happened?" With Emily visibly startled by my sudden intrusion, I grabbed her shoulders and blurted out in a rush, "Don't be so hasty. We're still young. Even if things are tough now, surely if we stay alive, good things will come. And I don't want you to disappear." I found myself in tears before I even realized it. I didn't want to lose Emily. That feeling was so strong that tears just naturally welled up in my eyes. But, despite my panic, Emily remained calm. "What on earth are you talking about?" "I'm just making a bracelet with the stones I got from the librarian." What? What Emily had in her hands were not pills, but natural stones. Knowing about my misunderstanding, Emily started laughing heartily while clutching her stomach. I also felt embarrassed about my jump to conclusions and found myself blushing. Then, Emily, still chuckling, handed me the bracelet. "This stone, called black tourmaline, is said to have the power to protect from negative energies. I already have mine, so I'm giving one to you, Stephen." "Really? Oh, thank you." I didn't expect to receive a gift from Emily, so I was honestly delighted. "Yeah, you're a valued member of the infirmary gang, Stephen, and don't worry, I'm not going anywhere." Even though she said that, Emily suddenly disappeared. Now, Emily is right here in front of me. Unconsciously, with tears filling my eyes, I took the black tourmaline bracelet from my suit pocket. It's been 16 years since then. I've worn it faithfully, never once leaving it off my person. Before I knew it, Emily's beautiful light brown eyes were also filled with tears. "I'm sorry for transferring schools so suddenly." but there was a deep reason behind it. According to Emily, her parents got violent with her, and fearing for her life, she ran away from home. Emily's mother's brother, who happened to be Johnson, and the two of them were uncle and niece. And Emily had sought help from Johnson, who lived in the next county. He was worried about Emily and could no longer leave her at her parents' home, so he cut ties with his sister and adopted Emily. So, Emily's last name had changed from Thompson to Miller. Hearing about Emily's dramatic past, my heart ached. It was natural for her to have transferred schools so suddenly. Wiping her tears, Emily opened her mouth. "I've never been able to forget you since then." So, when my father brought up the dinner date, I was very surprised. I knew it was you right away because your last name is unusual. Honestly, I never thought I'd see you again, so I was really happy. I was a mess when I was in high school, wasn't I? I knew it, and I was really embarrassed. So I couldn't express my feelings at the time. Even if you're as kind as you are, Stephen, there's no way you'd fall in love with someone like me. Hearing Emily's words, I was surprised. I can't believe she felt the same way as me. I liked Emily too, but I had always assumed there were no women who would like me. But now, I think I've improved my appearance a bit. So let me say it, I'm in love with Stephen. Emily, please don't put yourself down like that. I've loved you for as long as I can remember. You've always been beautiful in my eyes, back then and now. I had to tell her that, I just had to, before Emily could finish speaking. It wasn't that I loved her because of who she is now. For me, Emily was always something special. Hearing my words, Emily blushed and tears welled up in her eyes. I could tell, though, that they were not tears of sorrow. Thank you. High school was tough, but having you, Stephen, there got me through those days. We held hands across the table, waiting for each other's tears to stop. Everyone I thought would leave me had gone somewhere, but Emily kept her promise. And so, she came back to me. That reality washed away the painful past with the tears, something I felt deep in my bones. After a year of dating, we decided to get married. When we started dating, Johnson was very surprised to learn that we already knew each other. I was so surprised. I had no idea the two of you knew each other, but I am truly grateful to Stephen. During high school, Emily was wounded deep down, but thanks to you, she's pulled through. As he said this, Johnson gazed into the distance as if lost in the past. There are circumstances between my wife and I that have prevented us from having our own children. That's why we've always thought of Emily as a daughter. Not having a child must have been hard for Johnson at the time. But it was clear to me and to Emily herself that the Johnson and his wife genuinely cared about her as if she were their own daughter. Emily was really happy to become your adopted daughter. She said she is able to smile now thanks to you. If you say that, it makes me happy. We have suffered a lot, and I've always wanted her to be happy. I believe that you will definitely make our daughter happy. Stephen, or can I start calling you my son? As he said this, Johnson gave a shy smile. Right. Marrying her meant that I, too, would become his son. I shook my head vigorously, a broad smile on my face. Of course, from now on, I will call you my father-in-law. Ha, not only a daughter, but now I've got a son as well. It's like a dream come true. Maybe the experiences we each had in our pasts were dark and sad, but thanks to the irreplaceable encounters, we knew the joy of love and being loved. Savoring that happiness, my heart swelled with hope for the bright future ahead. It was a day when a brief shower had fallen. The French woman who appeared before me, having forgotten her umbrella, asked me in an urgent manner where she could buy that thing. She told me that she wanted to buy something completely unfamiliar to me. I was perplexed. My name is Mike Henderson. I'm an older man in my 40s working for a trading company. I've been in this job for a long time, working for more than 20 years now. Thanks to that, I'm decently good at my job and have been blessed with great subordinates. However, getting along with all of them is challenging. Mike, get it together, man. Another input error. This is why it's tough with the less educated, you know. Especially this new recruit this year, James, is quite a formidable foe. He's a graduate of a prestigious university, and he's indeed smart. But his educational elitism is extreme. and he often looks down on me, who only finished middle school. However, it's true that I make a lot of mistakes on the computer. I struggle with digital tasks, so I often make typos like this. Sorry, James. I'll be more careful next time. It doesn't matter. For an uneducated old man like you, it's like talking to a brick wall. You'll just make the same mistakes again. You're incompetent. A report in French is difficult for someone with your level of education, isn't it? James is the son of an executive, and there's a lot of gossip that he's destined for a leadership role in the future. That's why, even though I've been working for 20 years, he looks down on me because I've never made it past the rank of section manager. Of course, I've warned him, and others have reprimanded him too. But he doesn't listen, and gradually everyone else has given up. It's better than being completely ignored, they say, but it's rare for someone to be so ostracized. But he's favored by the company's executives, so I can't provoke him too much. Then one day, while I was racking my brains over how to handle this newbie, darn it, I forgot my umbrella. On my way home, I was caught in a brief shower and took shelter under a nearby building. It looked like it was going to clear up soon, so I thought I'd take a break. I was leisurely watching the sky when a woman ran into the building where I was sheltering from the rain. She had brown hair and pale skin. Furthermore, she had a long nose and beautiful facial features. Having interacted with many Europeans, I had a hunch that she might be from somewhere in France based on her looks. She was drenched and hurriedly pulled a handkerchief out of her bag to dry herself. Then, once she was composed, she took out a mirror and began checking her makeup. Women do wear makeup, after all, and it must be tough when they get wet like this. Oh, what should I do? My makeup is coming off. However, as soon as she looked in the mirror, the woman made a face as if the world was coming to an end. Upon closer inspection, there were freckles on her skin. I'm guessing her makeup was being come off due to the rain, and they had emerged. Darn it, I forgot my makeup kit at the office. Is there a place nearby where I can buy makeup? The woman suddenly started talking to me. She was frantically gesturing, clearly in a rush. When I asked where she was from, she was indeed from France. Because of my job, I could speak French, so I tried to converse with her in French. Makeup. I'm not very knowledgeable, but there's a drugstore nearby where you might be able to buy some. Oh, you can speak my native language. Thank you for letting me know. Would you like me to show you the way? The rain seems to be letting up soon. Really? With that, the woman, Renee, bowed her head in gratitude. Just as we were finishing our talk, the rain stopped, so I took her to the drugstore. She apparently had an important job later, but she left her makeup tools at the office. Wow, this is so nice, and the color is lovely. It seemed Renee liked the cosmetics, and she went straight to the checkout. But the cashier seemed to have trouble understanding French, and I could tell something was going wrong because the checkout was taking longer than usual. I was in line behind Renee because there was something I wanted to buy. Seeing her struggle with the language barrier, I decided I should step in and help. Renee, do you have another card? It seems there's an issue reading this credit card. What? Who must be kidding? That's the only card I have, and I don't carry much cash. Got it. In that case, I'll cover it for you. What? Really? Renee was shocked, but if we kept stalling, she might be late for work. She wasn't buying anything too expensive, so I decided to pay for her, and we finished checking out. I'll definitely give you back the money. Sure. Good luck with your work. I exchanged number with her and saw her off. To be honest, I know it's a risk and people might call me a soft touch. There's a chance the money won't come back. But honestly, the money doesn't matter to me. I just want to help out a person from abroad working in a foreign land. Because of my job, I have many opportunities to interact with people from abroad, so I'm well aware of their hard work. Sure, there are times when cultural differences can lead to discomfort or even cause it. That's why being considerate is so important. A week passed. I was at a popular cafe. For a 40-year-old guy like me, going there alone required some courage, but it was the day I was meeting Renee, so I had to bite the bullet. She diligently kept in touch since our last meeting, and that's how we ended up here. I arrived 10 minutes before the scheduled time, and she was a little late. People here are surprisingly punctual. Weren't you bored arriving 10 minutes early? She seemed very surprised to see me there and said that, "Oh, I don't want you to get the wrong idea." Her comment wasn't meant to be sarcastic or anything like that. In France, being frank is considered a virtue. In fact, in France, they say that the best friends are the ones who are the most straightforward. So, this is not sarcasm, but rather her expressing her feelings based on her own sensibilities. With its unique culture of reading between the lines and modesty, her comment might come off as surprising. I wasn't bored. I was reading a book. Oh, good then. Saying this, she took a seat across from me, looking at her face again. Why is that? Her freckles seem to be a different color. What? You're making a strange face. Is my makeup weird? No, I was just thinking your freckles look a different color. I drew them with the American makeup tools I bought yesterday. It was a brand I had never seen before, but they were easy to use. Just the coloring wasn't great. Not suited for freckles. I tilted my head at her words. Aren't freckles something you get rid of? I'm no expert, but I get the idea of using makeup to hide blemishes or wrinkles. So wouldn't that extend to freckles as well? Are you drawing them on with makeup on purpose? Yes, that's right. In France, we don't get rid of freckles. In fact, people who have them are envied. I was surprised that there are people who try to erase them. I was taken aback by her comment. Sure, I've met French women with freckles, but I never imagined some of them were actually drawing them on with makeup. Language and culture, sure, but even beauty standards, or our values related to beauty, vary greatly by country. French values are interesting. Can I hear more about this? Of course, I can talk about this stuff all day. Although I often talk to foreigners for work, I seldom have the chance to have personal conversations. But understanding a culture means understanding its values and manners. I may not use this information in a business setting, but it's definitely worth knowing. I ended up forgetting my initial goal of getting my money back from Renee, and instead had various discussions with her. Renee is apparently 27 years old this year and works at the US branch of a company. She's been living here for about 2 years and seems to be enjoying it. I also enjoyed talking. Would you like to talk again sometime? Of course, if you don't mind chatting with an old guy like me. I think people here are wonderful and their humility is a virtue, but self-deprecation isn't good. After all, you're amazing. With those last words, I shrugged and parted ways with her. Since then, I started meeting with Renee regularly. Renee herself loves the culture of the US and is still learning. So we taught each other about our native cultures and had a good time. Then, a month later, I was preparing for an important meeting with James. It was our first meeting for new business development, so we planned to prepare meticulously, or so we thought. I'm sorry, James, can you redo the documents you created? What, why? You said you had no complaints about the content. It was at the final stage of the meeting preparations. James clearly resisted my instruction. James was supposed to create the documents for this meeting, but today was the first time I had a chance to go over them. We usually review them in advance, but James said, "It's pointless to show them to you, Mike, since you wouldn't understand French documents anyway. It's a waste just to show them to you, haha," and didn't let me see them until they were printed. Well, James is not a newcomer, so I trusted him not to make such a terrible mistake. But the content is fine. But there are many spelling errors. Just from a quick glance, there are several. No way, Mike. Someone with a low level of education like you would only know the standard phrases in French, right? Haha. Besides, people from abroad are more laid back about these things. As long as the meaning gets across, isn't that enough? Haha. Listen here. I think it's problematic to belittle the customer like that. Surprisingly, James clearly frowned at my caution. Aren't you ashamed to criticize others when you frequently make typing mistakes on your computer? That's a different story. It's the same, haha. Sore loser, typical idiot, haha. If you insist, why don't you redo it yourself? Better yet, why don't you do the presentation, haha. Then you can point out the mistakes and save us the trouble of redoing the data, haha. Cut it out. It's you who should cut it out, you idiot. Don't tell me what to do, especially when you're still a mere employee at your age, haha. With that, James kicked the desk and swiftly left the floor. I wanted to redo the document, but James had the data. Given his demeanor, he probably wouldn't hand over the data to me. If this meeting fails, I'm sure he plans to shift the blame onto me. This is a problem. I, with my head hung low, reluctantly went into the meeting, manually correcting the spelling errors. But I'm surprised. I never thought I'd see you here. I'm surprised too, Renee. Incredibly, the client representative for today's meeting was none other than Renee. She had her signature freckle makeup on, and in her suit, she looked sharp and intellectual. James was surprised that I knew the representative, but my course of action wouldn't change even if the other party was Renee. Thank you for making time to be here today. There were some inaccuracies in the documents we prepared, and we're correcting them by hand. I handed the documents to Renee and her team, and as soon as she looked at them, a puzzled expression crossed her face. Did you create this document? I was responsible for the final check, but someone else prepared it. There was no point in lying, so I honestly responded. Renee sighed deeply. I thought so. There are terrible spelling mistakes. Moreover, the wording is hard to understand. The person who prepared this needs to study French more, and also the culture. I can't feel any sincerity towards my home country in this document. Please convey this. Yes, I will pass on your feedback. I glanced at James. He was trembling and his face was beet red. Well, this was due to his lack of study, and he brought this upon himself. It's true that when viewed from a global perspective, the Americans are meticulous and, if put negatively, too detail-oriented. It is understandable to have the impression that foreign countries are more tolerant. But that's not the case with France. It is said that the French consider frankness a virtue, and they themselves are aware that they are often described as complainers. It could be said that it's their culture to complain without malice. About 1 in 4 people vent their stress by complaining, as they say. Moreover, the French often seek negative feedback. Negative feedback tends to lead to personal growth. On the contrary, positive feedback can even be perceived as hypocritical in some cases. That's why they express their thoughts immediately and point out mistakes when they find them. Well, this is more about cultural studies than language learning. So this situation arose because James neglected to study. Sometimes a little tough love is necessary for learning. There's no use in just saying it. So there we were, with James taking feedback on the documents and blushing throughout. Our meeting successfully concluded. James, probably quite embarrassed and enduring much, was silent after the meeting. If he had amended his ways while receiving feedback, it wouldn't have come to this. Well, he's still young. I hope he learns a lot from today's failure. Why haven't you been promoted? Near the end of the workday. That's when James finally broke his silence. Well, my sister has a weak body, so I would refuse overtime so that I could go home early in case anything happened. Now that my sister's married, I can do some overtime, but that's not the only reason. I'm not good with computers either. I laughed and said this. James seemed to want to say something, but remained silent and left. But after that, there were changes in him. First, he started speaking to me in a more respectful tone. It was weird that he hadn't been doing that before, but from my perspective, it was a massive change. Furthermore, he began asking my opinion on various things, like Mike, could you please check this document? I was pretty surprised at first, but while he's a bit arrogant, he's not a fool. He properly acknowledges his faults and learns to avoid repeating them. Young people who do this will definitely go far in the future. Of course, thanks for trusting me. He still has areas to improve, but James's abilities are certainly above mine. He's probably gonna be my boss one day, so I guess I should give him some support to ensure he thrives in the future. I reckon that's part of my duty, being an employee with years of service. So, while James started to come around, a whole lot changed in my personal life too. Mike, I want to marry you. That bombshell came a month after a meeting with Renee. Like always, we were at the cafe, engaging in our little cultural exchange, when, out of nowhere, Renee drops that on me, and I nearly spit out my coffee. I want to marry you, Mike. What about you? Don't you want to marry me? Renee, in her typical demeanor, tilted her head in curiosity. Right, France. It's often called the country of love. The French have a pretty open attitude towards love and relationships. Well, of course, I'd love to. You're an incredible woman, but I'm over 40, you know. Does age matter? It doesn't bother me at all. Even if you were 50 or 60, I'd still want to marry you. Or we could just live together, if you'd prefer. Either way, I just want to be with you." She looked me right in the eye as she said it. Many people in France are in de facto relationships, without any official marriage. But that just wouldn't do it for me. I wouldn't want that, it's a bit lonely. "I want to marry you." I thought you'd say something like that. She gave a delighted smile at my answer, and I couldn't help but grin too. "Well, if we've settled on that, should we go ring shopping?" "Oh, but shouldn't we move in together first?" "Haha, true. I'll have to revise my apartment contract. I'd love to live in a house with a big garden." And just like that, at a fast clip, we were discussing our future together. Of course, not all French folks are this spontaneous. Some take their time. But Renee, based on our past conversations, often takes bold actions. With her, if I dilly-dallied, she wouldn't hesitate to kick my butt. Besides, I have been considering marriage for some time now. But it's not about convenience or practicality. Renee is a wonderful woman that I can't help but want to marry her. Her forwardness, her clarity, it's incredibly empowering and beautiful. I guess my desire to support her for a lifetime is why I want to marry her. Who knew that the woman I helped on that rainy day would end up being my future partner? Life really is unpredictable. I wonder whether we should have the wedding in France or the US. With these thoughts, we left the cafe together. Later on, we'd get married, were blessed with kids, and true to the phrase "mother knows best," I was splendidly under her thumb. But that's a story for a little later. For now, I was thrilled at the prospect of seeing Renee in her wedding dress.